Hi everybody, thanks for joining me again. We're going to pick up with Pinocchio. We're on chapter 18. Chapter 18. Pinocchio again sees the fox and the cat and goes with them to sow his money in the field of miracles. As you may imagine, the fairy let the puppet scream and cry a good half hour because of his long nose, which he could not get through the door. She did this to teach him a good lesson and to correct him for the very bad habit of lying, which is one of the worst habits a boy can have. But when she saw his face disfigured from crying and his eyes sticking out of his head, she pitied him. So she clapped her hands, at which signal 1,000 big woodpeckers flew in at the window and, perching on Pinocchio's nose, pecked away at it with so much zeal that in a few minutes the big, ridiculous thing was reduced to its usual size. "How good you are, dear fairy," said the puppet, wiping his eyes. "I love you so much." "I love you too," answered the fairy, "and if you want to stay with me, you shall be my little brother, and I will be your darling sister." "I'd like to stay with you, but what about my daddy?" "I have thought of everything, and your father already knows everything. He will be here tonight." "Really?" exclaimed Pinocchio, jumping for joy. "Then, dearest fairy, if you don't mind, I shall go out to meet him. I can't wait any longer to see and kiss that poor old man who has suffered so much for me." "Go, by all means, but don't get lost. Take the road through the wood, and you will surely meet him." Pinocchio left, and as soon as he reached the wood, he began to run like a deer. At a certain place, in front of the big oak tree, he stopped, because he thought he heard people moving in the bushes. And indeed, there appeared all at once on the road, can you guess who? The fox and the cat, his two traveling companions, with whom he had supped at the Red Crab Inn. "Here's our dear Pinocchio!" exclaimed the fox, embracing and kissing him. "How do you come to be here?" "How do you come to be here?" repeated the cat. "It's a very long story," said the puppet. "I'll tell it when I have time, though you should know this much, that the other night, when you left me alone in the inn, I encountered 2 assassins on the road." "Assassins? Oh, my poor friend Pinocchio! And what did they want?" "They wanted to rob me of my gold." "Infamous people!" said the fox. "Most infamous people!" added the cat. "But I ran away," continued the puppet, "and they chased me until they caught me and hung me to a branch of that oak tree." And Pinocchio pointed to the big oak tree. "Did you ever hear anything more horrible?" said the fox. "What a world we are condemned to live in! Where can honest people like us find shelter?" While talking, Pinocchio noticed that the cat was lame of her right foreleg, since the paw with all its claws was missing. So he said to her, "What has become of your paw?" The cat wanted to say something, but got confused. So the fox quickly answered, "My friend is too modest. That is why she doesn't answer, but I shall answer for her. Almost an hour ago we met an old wolf on the road, who was almost fainting from hunger. He asked alms of us, but we hadn't even a fish bone to give him. So what do you think my friend did? My friend, who has the heart of a Caesar. She bit off her own paw and gave it to the poor beast so that he could eat something." As he told this, the fox wiped a tear. Pinocchio was so deeply touched that he went to the cat and whispered in her ear, "If all cats were like you, mice would be fortunate creatures." "And what are you doing here?" asked the fox. "I'm waiting for my father. He might come at any moment." "And your gold pieces?" "They are in my pocket, except the one I spent at the Inn of the Red Crab." "And to think that by tomorrow, instead of 4 gold pieces, they might be 1,000 or 2,000. Why not follow my advice and bury them in the field of miracles?" Impossible today. I'll go another time. Another time it will be too late, said the fox. Why? Because a rich man has bought the field, and after tomorrow nobody will be allowed to bury his money there. How far away is the Field of Miracles? Hardly 2 miles. Will you come with us? You will be there in half an hour, and bury your 4 gold pieces at once, and after a few minutes you shall have 2,000, and return in the evening with your pockets full. Will you come? Pinocchio remembered the good fairy, old Geppetto, and the warnings of the talking cricket. Yet, in the end, he did as all boys do who have no sense and no heart. That is, he shook his head and said to the fox and the cat, "Let's go. I'll come with you." And off they went. They had walked about half a day when they came to a place called Fool's Trap. As soon as they entered the city, Pinocchio saw that the streets were full of dogs who had lost their hair and whose mouths were wide open from hunger. There were shorn sheep trembling with cold, roosters without their crests and combs who were begging for a grain of maize, butterflies who could not fly because they had sold their beautiful wings, peacocks without tails who were ashamed to be seen, and pheasants who were crawling along, mourning for their beautiful gold and silver feathers, lost forever. In the midst of these beggars and shamefaced beasts, from time to time elegant carriages passed by, with a fox or a thievish magpie or some bird of prey inside. "But where is the Field of Miracles?" asked Pinocchio. "Just a few yards from here." They crossed the city, going beyond the walls. They came to a lonely field that looked just like any other field. "Here we are," said the fox. "Now get to work and dig a small hole with your hands and put your gold pieces in." Pinocchio obeyed. He dug a hole, put in the 4 gold pieces he still had, and covered them up with some earth. "Now then," said the fox, "go to the dam close by, bring a bucket of water, and water the ground where you have sown your fortune." Pinocchio went to the dam, and as he did not have a bucket, he took one of his shoes, filled it with water, and watered the earth which covered his money. "What else must I do?" "Nothing else," answered the fox. "Now we can go away. You must come back in about 20 minutes, and you will see a little tree already growing through the earth, with its branches covered with money." The poor puppet was beside himself with joy, and he thanked the fox and the cat 1,000 times, and promised them a lovely present. "We don't want presents," answered the 2 scoundrels. "It's quite enough for us to have shown you how to get rich without hard work. That makes us as happy as can be." With these words they said goodbye to Pinocchio, and wishing him a splendid harvest, they went about their business. Chapter 19. Pinocchio loses his money, and he is sent to prison, where he spends 4 months. The puppet went back to town and started to count the minutes one by one. When he thought the 20 minutes were over, he ran back to the Field of Miracles. He ran as fast as he could, his heart beating like a grandfather clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, while he talked to himself. "Suppose, instead of 1,000 gold pieces, I find 2,000 on the branches of the tree. Instead of 2,000, 5,000. Instead of 5,000, 100,000. Oh, what a fine gentleman I shall be then! I shall have a magnificent palace, and 1,000 wooden ponies, and 1,000 stables to play with, and a cellar full of lollies and cordials, and a library brimful of candies and tarts and cakes and almond biscuits and cream puffs." While he was thus talking to himself, he came near the field and stopped to look if he could see a tree with branches laden with money, but he saw nothing. He went a little nearer. Nothing still. He entered the field, went to the spot where he had buried his gold pieces, and still nothing at all. He stood there pondering, and forgetting the rules and regulations of good manners, he took his hand out of his pocket and scratched his nose with all his might. At that moment, a loud laugh shattered the air, and looking up, he saw a large parrot sitting on a tree, cleaning the few feathers he had left. "Why are you laughing?" asked Pinocchio angrily. "I am laughing because while cleaning my feathers, I tickled myself under my wings." The puppet did not answer. He went to the dam, filled his old shoe with water again, and watered the earth covering his money. While he did so, another laugh, more impertinent than the first one, rang out over the deserted field. "I say," shouted Pinocchio angrily, "may I know what you are laughing at, you ill-mannered parrot?" "I am laughing at those simpletons who are silly enough to believe all the nonsense they hear, and who are always cheated by those who are more cunning than they." "Are you perhaps speaking of me?" "Yes, poor Pinocchio, I am, for you are so simple as to believe that you can sow and harvest money like beans and pumpkins. There was a time when I believed that too, and today I am suffering for it. Today, alas, it is too late. I have learned that to earn money honestly, you must know how to do it with labor of your hands or with your brains." "I don't understand," said the puppet, trembling with fear. "Patience! I shall explain it plainer," answered the parrot. "While you were in the city, the fox and cat returned here. They dug out your money and ran away like the wind. You must be a quick runner if you want to catch them." Pinocchio stood there with his mouth open, and as he did not believe what the parrot said, he began to dig up the earth he had watered. He dug and dug and dug until he had a hole big enough for a haystack, but money there was none. Then in desperation he ran back to the town and went to the courthouse to denounce the rascals who had robbed him. The judge was an old gorilla who was very old, and looked most respectable with his white beard, but mostly for his gold spectacles without lenses, which he had to wear always because of an inflammation of the eyes that he had had for many years. In the judge's presence, Pinocchio told all the circumstances of the infamous fraud of which he had been victim. He gave the names, surnames, and all other details of these rascals, and finished by demanding justice. The judge, as he was very interested in the story, listened to him with good will, and was extremely sorry for him. When the puppet had told everything, he stretched out his hand and rang a bell. At the sound, two mastiffs appeared, dressed like policemen. The judge pointed to Pinocchio and said, "This poor fellow has been robbed of 4 gold pieces. Take him to the prison immediately." Pinocchio was flabbergasted as he heard this sentence, which came like lightning out of a blue sky. He tried to protest, but the policemen did not want to waste any time, so they put their paws on his mouth and took him to jail. And there he remained for 4 months, 4 long months. And he would have remained longer had it not happened, fortunately, that the young Emperor of Fool's Trap, having won a big victory over his enemies, commanded a great public rejoicing. There were illuminations, fireworks, horse and bicycle races, and first and foremost, he ordered the prisons to be opened and every rascal to receive his freedom. "If the others can go, I want to go too," Pinocchio told the jailer. "Oh no, you can't," replied the jailer, "for you are not in that class." "I beg your pardon," said Pinocchio. "I am a rascal too." "In that case, you are perfectly right," said the jailer, and taking off his cap respectfully, bowed, opened the prison door, and let him out. That's the end of chapter 19. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you here tomorrow. Bye.